Welcome to Fox 29 News Now on this Tuesday morning. We're going to get straight into local news with Lauren Johnson. Happening today, crews will finish demolishing a home in Port Richmond that became unstable while undergoing renovations. Now the question this morning is, can crews save the house next door? Lauren Johnson has been out covering this all morning from Port Richmond.
Things don't look good, guys. If you look at the house right now and what's left of it, it looks like they're going to have to take down everything over there. But I am no expert, and that's why they will be back out here this morning. Take a look at the crews here last night on scene after the City Department of Licensing and Inspections determined the home at 2624 was unstable. So demolition started, and it will resume today. And they really want to know what happened here. But here's what we understand. Someone tells us that a contractor was underpinning the basement and compromised a shared wall, making it unstable. Now, the entire neighborhood is watching all of this play out. They're in fear, many of them saying it should have never reached this point.
There's a lot of good contractors. There's a lot of shoddy contractors. I guess that's what we're seeing here. We saw them taking a lot of dirt out of the basement yesterday. Walked by with the dog. Was kind of like, that's kind of weird. Maybe that's not a good idea.
In this, they were underpinning, so they didn't have a permit to underpin. So, so they were doing it without a permit. So that's also a legal action with that. So, and it's just happening every day in our city.
You can't just dig out the basement of a 100-year-old house and expect it not to fall down.
And a lot of it is rushing it. They're flipping it, this for rehab, if you do 90% of the work, you get the tax abatement. So it's all about getting it as quickly as you can to flip it and sell it.
Something needs to happen. Maybe they need to have more restrictions, or somebody needs to be paying closer attention to what's going on when work is happening.
I would like the tax abatement to end so people would stop rushing with the construction of it. There has to be more awareness. Permits need to get posted. There needs to be discussions with the neighbors. Everyone just has to kind of look out for themselves, be the eyes and the ears on the streets.
Yeah, a similar scene played out in Fishtown last month on Thompson Street. Something similar. The family of a 94-year-old woman there says shoddy construction work in the basement of an adjoining house forced the demolition of that woman's very long-time home. So in this case, according to the city's website, this property only had a permit to build an addition, never to do work on the foundation of the home. But what we understand is that addition could have been creating more space in the basement to make it then 3 levels instead of just 2. That would have been an addition, but you can't really dig up dirt down there without things kind of crumbling under the pressure, and it seems like that's what happened here.
And moving on to political and national news, the latest front in the race for the White House is the Supreme Court. Some Democrats are now talking about court packing, changing the number of Supreme Court justices to help tilt the court left. Fox News correspondent Doug Luzader has more on the proposal and some of the reaction from Washington this morning.
The Supreme Court has had 9 justices for about 150 years, but that could change if Democrats win the White House next year. I think politicians today are frustrated by the Supreme Court. They hold nothing on FDR, whose aggressive agenda was blocked multiple times. And he argued the Constitution didn't grant the High Court that kind of power.
Nor, parenthetically, does it mention the number of judges for the court.
So his proposed solution was packing the court with more justices friendly to his cause. It didn't work, but flash forward now to the growing Democratic field for 2020, and you'll find FDR's idea is gaining backers.
Make the United States Supreme Court follow basic rules of ethics.
Senator Elizabeth Warren hasn't exactly hidden her disdain for the High Court. And she says Republicans stole a court seat from President Obama when they refused to consider Judge Merrick Garland. Senator Cory Booker has talked about term limits for justices, and others have gone further.
One idea that I think is interesting is you have 15 members, but only 10 of them are appointed in the political fashion.
It would certainly give Democrats power to water down President Trump's stamp on the court, but all of this raises a tough question. If we open this door, what's the limit?
But where does it end? If say, the President Kamala Harris adds 2 justices, then the next Republican president, 4 or 8 years after that, adds 2 more, and you have this constant cycle until we end up with 135 people on the Supreme Court.
Now, ultimately, it takes an act of Congress to change the number of justices on the court, and that's something that hasn't happened since 1869. In Washington, Doug Luzader, Fox News.
And on to some business news this morning. We have more drama for Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos. We already knew his girlfriend's brother leaked some racy texts between the two, but now we know how much he got paid to do so. Jerry Williams has more from the Fox News Business Center.
Ever wonder how the richest man in the world, that'd be Jeff Bezos of Amazon, how his affair was uncovered? Well, sources, we've learned about this a couple weeks ago, that the National Enquirer, you know, the tabloid, paid Lauren Sanchez's brother. Now, Lauren Sanchez is the mistress, right?
Yes.
And now the girlfriend of Jeff Bezos. That magazine, or newspaper, whatever you want to call it, paid Lauren Sanchez's brother, Michael, how much? Hi, Jerry Willis. Haven't seen you in a while. Mike and Alex here. How much?
Good. $200,000.
Hello.
Ooh. For the texts, for the emails, and all of this stuff. Really salacious, right? I mean, this isn't something you want your kids to see, not by a long shot.
No.
The National Enquirer paid this out to Michael Sanchez, as you say. That is the brother of Lauren Sanchez. Lauren Sanchez is a television reporter who is having this relationship with Jeff Bezos. Right after that was made public, Bezos and his wife split. And I know I can just hear you guys, Mike, you're going to say, Jerry, why does a business reporter care about this story of marital infidelity?
Why does a business reporter care?
Because, as you said, Mr. Bezos is the world's most rich fella. He's the richest person in the world, right? And he has the biggest stake in Amazon shares, 16% stake. He himself owns. So if he and his wife split, what happens to those shares? Also, with all of this going on, does this distract the CEO and founder of one of the nation's biggest companies by market cap? All of this matters to people who hold these shares, who just want Amazon to keep on keeping on, right? The shares have come back a little bit. They've come down a little bit from their highs, but they certainly haven't faltered. But this is an issue for investors because they know Bezos, and Bezos, who's focused like a laser on the business, is important to that company going forward.
Jerry, I haven't looked into the gossipy side of this over the last 2 weeks or so. What do you think that Lauren and Michael, will they ever speak again?
Were they speaking? I'm like, were they estranged? They couldn't possibly have been close if he was willing to do this.
I don't know
right?
that backstory well enough.
So the backstory here is that
Ever wonder how the richest man in the world, that'd be Jeff Bezos of Amazon, how his affair was uncovered? Well, sources we've learned about this couple.
And going back to local news, we have a warning out of Delaware County. Police want you to be careful when answering a knock at your door. The person on the other side may be more dangerous than you think. Last week, Fulcroft police stopped 3 Atlantic Energy solicitors. Police say they were canvassing neighborhoods and knocking on doors without a proper permit. Further investigation revealed one of the solicitors is a convicted rapist. Fulcroft police published a warning to residents on its Facebook page. People living in the area say the situation is disturbing.
I just feel maybe they should do a little more research before they just randomly send people knocking on doors.
I keep my door shut and locked now at night.
Fulcroft Police Chief called Atlantic Energy to address the situation and says the company was responsive. Officers will continue to stop anyone soliciting business in the area. Sticking with local news, we have developments in a story we first brought you last November. Paul Canero has pleaded not guilty to murdering his brother and his family over money. The New Jersey businessman is accused of killing his brother's wife, and their 2 children before setting fire to their Colts Neck mansion. A public defender entered those pleas yesterday at a hearing in Freehold. Canero has been represented by private attorneys, but since they've withdrawn from the case due to conflicts of interest. And in Camden County, a man who shot a Camden police officer will spend the next 7 years behind bars. Delron Mahan shot Officer Patrick O'Hanlon on the thigh after a struggle 2 years ago. As part of a plea deal, he's been sentenced to 7 years in state prison. And back here in Philadelphia, more students at Temple University have been diagnosed with the mumps. The Philadelphia Health Department now says 54 students have been infected. As a result, Temple University is now requiring students to get 2 doses of the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. Students will also have to get chickenpox, tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis vaccinations. Over in Atlantic County, one of 4 Atlantic City casinos that shut down 5 years ago could soon reopen. Developer Bart Blackstein says he's moving forward with plans to bring a casino back to the Showboat, which has been operating as a non-gambling hotel. That would give Atlantic City a total of 10 casinos. He plans to break ground next year on land he owns that would house the casino, which is located next to the old Showboat. And over in New Jersey, the state will now ban cashless stores as well. Governor Phil Murphy signed legislation banning cashless stores on Monday. The new law takes effect immediately and will punish cashless businesses with a fine of up to $2,500. The law does exempt certain businesses like parking facilities, car rental companies, and airport vendors. This all comes after Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney signed a similar ban earlier this month.
That's the text from the story.
And sticking in New Jersey, 12 men have been arrested in connection with an alleged narcotics and gun trafficking ring in Camden County, Attorney General Gurveer Grewal announced on Monday. The criminal network was responsible for illegally trafficking untraceable assault rifles known as ghost guns that were assembled from kits purchased online and dealing cocaine, according to authorities.
Well, 12 men are in jail accused of trying to sell untraceable assault rifles known as ghost guns built from kits sold online.
Yeah, New Jersey officials say these arrests, part of Operation Stonewall, were the first under this new state law.
Selling and buying so-called ghost guns at sites like ghostguns.com is now illegal in New Jersey. But State Attorney General Gurveer Grewal says that didn't stop one manufacturer from selling and others from buying that type of untraceable weapon and its parts.
They fabricate the lower part of these guns, the 80% complete portions, and then sell the remaining parts, and then in some cases provide links to YouTube videos on how to complete them.
The AG says the alleged AR-15 gun trafficking network, an alleged crime ring that started out looking at cocaine distribution, led authorities to the guns. He would not name the manufacturer, who's not charged yet, for trying to evade the New Jersey ban by shipping gun parts to an address in Pennsylvania. Those guns, he says, were recovered in Lindenwohl and Mount Ephraim.
That is part of the problem with ghost gun manufacturers, that they are playing fast and loose with our rules and looking for loopholes in existing laws.
Okay, Upper Darby Police Superintendent Michael Chitt, well, you know him very well, is here. Good to see you.
Good morning.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Did I get that right? If somebody asks you what is a ghost gun, what do you say?
Ghost gun basically is an untraceable weapon that is put together by parts that are bought online. You know, you buy the major what they call 80%, but then all the other parts are untraceable. So they manufacture a gun. Usually an AR-15 is very popular, which is an assault weapon.
So if I buy all those parts from that website and I put it together, it would be Mike's gun as opposed to Smith & Wesson or something like that.
Correct.
It'd be Mike's AR-15.
But there's no serial number, so it's untraceable. Yeah. So if it's used in a crime, you can't trace the origin or anything else like that.
It'd be hard to find the suspect.
It's hard to trace the gun. That's why it's called a ghost gun, because there's no serial numbers.
So since this operation was a year-long investigation, Operation Stonewall as they call it, why it spanned across Pennsylvania and New Jersey, what are the rules then when it comes to Pennsylvania and New Jersey?
Well, Pennsylvania has no law, which they should have a law.
Okay.
It's bad enough we have to deal with legitimately sold guns daily. Now you got these ghost guns being manufactured, and they're going to fall into the wrong hands, and they're going to be used against police officers, against the citizenry of our community.
Mm-hmm.
So there should be a law.
There is a law.
Jersey has a law, but ghost guns is a fairly new phenomena with respect to being seen on the street. I think we've seen it once, and that was the young man that we arrested in the high school with all the ammunition, and he had
from overseas.
From overseas,
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first time that I ever saw a ghost gun in our community, but that's a new phenomena. But
well,
again,
if you say that, maybe some people will say it's not a problem then.
Well, you know what? Why wait till it's a problem?
Exactly.
Let's take it on head on. Let's make a law. It's illegal to possess these types of guns, period.
Especially because they found a loophole. So what they do is they purchase the materials in Pennsylvania because it's legal, right?
Right.
And then they put them together, then send them off to New Jersey.
That's exactly
and then
what's
sell
happening.
them that way.
That's exactly
So Jersey
what's
says
happening.
we're cutting you off.
Right.
You can't do that anymore.
Right.
So let's follow suit in Pennsylvania.
I agree 100%. I mean,
what would stop it?
Nothing. Well,
not the gun
obviously, the state legislature would probably stop it.
Well, why? I mean,
because
the NRA doesn't care about this, do they?
Pennsylvania is one of the most stringent gun.
Oh, slippery slope thing?
Has a tremendous gun policy and a tremendous support for guns. And, you know, when you start dealing with these types of weapons that are being seen on our street, starting to be seen on our street, it's a problem.
Well, we know that some states have issued cease and desist letters to some manufacturers.
Right.
What's the status of that then? Was it effective?
Again, it's not a universal thing. It's not nationwide.
Right.
That's what you need to do.
Plus, it's on the internet, though. You can go on the internet and see how to.
You can go on the internet and find
that.
anything. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is amazing what is on the internet, especially when it comes to weapons.
And if Pennsylvania passes it, then they'll go to Delaware.
You know, it's something that has to be addressed and something that has to be looked at because it's starting to be a problem. And why not wait?
Nip it in the bud.
Start now. Start right now. Do a national type thing.
Okay. Thank you.
My pleasure.